Modifiers. You might have heard of them, but yeah, you definitely need to use them when you're making 3D models, when you're trying to make more advanced 3D models at least. And today we are going to tackle that. The first time you open and check out the modifiers, it might seem very intimidating, but once you get to know them, it's not as intimidating as you might think. So the ones that are important for you to know is under the generative modifier. So these are one of the more important ones that you'll use very often. This part you don't need to, like these other three you don't need to know for right now. You just need to know this first generative section. This part is like for deforming objects, which you could use, but you can also do something like that over here or like in edit mode. Like at least for me, I think it's more simple to do it that way, but you can also do it using these modifiers. Also, these modifiers over here are just for physics. They're just for simulation. Most of them are for simulations, so you won't need to be knowing them in making your average 3D model. So yeah, I'll be talking through the most important modifiers in this section. So it's like fast, simple, and like practical. You'll use them right off the bat and get the hang of using them. So the first modifier is the array modifier. First, you actually have to select the object that you want to apply the modifiers to. So in this example, I'll select this cube. And then go over here, see that wrench, that's for modifiers. So click the cube, go to its wrench place, go to the modifier, add modifier, and then you pick a modifier over here. And then first we'll check out the array modifier and what it does. You click array modifier, you click array, and you see there's two cubes. So what array modifiers does, it's kind of like this picture over here. It duplicates the object. How many times? Like you can duplicate the object like 6 times. And then you can switch the gap between the object. You can make it the gap in the x-axis, y-axis, or like the z-axis. This is pretty useful when making, like a lot of situations. One I can think of right now is making stairs. Like you can compress this, make it like that. And then you can make a stair. You click the array modifier. It's already at the x-axis, so you don't have to move. And you move the y up. You move the z-axis up. You see, that's like a staircase, right? It'll always follow this when adding a new. So you can have like 20, 28, and then say staircase. Click Control Z, and then it's back to the cube. So the next modifier is the bevel modifier. If you click it, it bevels the object. This controls the segment. One second, let me just turn on this so you can see clearly. So when you turn on bevel, it bevels all the edges, or most of the edges of your model. You can select the angle that it will not bevel. So if you set it like 9 degrees, over 9 degrees, since these angles are 90 degrees, it will not bevel any angle that is like over 94 degrees. Like this is 90 degrees, and 90 degrees is less than 94 degrees, so it will not bevel it. So usually, like, set it at 30. Like, you can always just tweak around, just play around with this number. This is just the angle that it will not bevel. Since all of these are over 90 degrees, it will bevel since they're like more than 30 degrees. If you get what I mean. So, and then this is just the amount that is beveling, like how extreme. And then this is the segment of this bevel. Like for example, the first one is just 1 cut. There's 2, and then there's 3. You can just choose, and then always make sure to press Control A and make it to scale. If you don't make it to scale, like let's say you did something like something like that, and then now you use the bevel. It still works a bit, but sometimes you see that deformation over here. It deforms your bevel. So if you press Control A, it doesn't deform the bevel. It is complete, like a perfect triangle, and like it doesn't stretch or like deform, basically. Okay, to the next modifier will be the Boolean modifier. The Boolean modifier is pretty useful when kind of like, I can just show you an example. I think the example can explain better than words, but like, let's say you want a hole inside this cube, and you don't want to just, like, you just want a cube inside this. Let me just show you. So you want to click this thing and then click on that, you hide this, and you can see there's a hole, right? So what beveling does, it's kind of like this picture over here. It kind of takes a chunk out. Look, if you hide this, it's beveling out of this. I think you understand, right? So you can have like this, and then you hide this, and then you have this this hole. And when you want to apply it, you know, if you move this out, it's not gonna have a hole. But if you have this in, it will cut those parts out, basically. So if you're happy with the hole inside there, you simply press apply. It will make it so that it's permanent. Okay, now you take it out, it's applied. Now if you put this, it doesn't, since the modifier is applied, it's the same thing happens if you use the ray modifier or bevel modifier. You can always apply the modifier. You can always just apply the modifier when you're happy with it. So the Boolean modifier just simply lets you use an object to cut another object. It's pretty useful in a lot of situations, like the one I showed you. For example, sometimes the topology is kind of weird. So like cutting out like a specific object, or cutting a hole, or putting a specific shape like in to like make it onto the object, it's very difficult. So you want to use this. So that's the Boolean. Just look at these image. They do exactly what the image shows. Build, you don't need to know about build. Decimate is also pretty useful. For example, if you have like a monkey head, you can use the decimate modifier, and then cut the topology. Cut the amount of faces that it has. Look, you can see the face count without being cut is 494. I mean 500. But you can always just cut it down. There's a few options. The first option is just unsubdivide. So this one is for more uniform things, like if you go here and you subdivide this a few times, and then you can see it better like here. So there's all the faces. You can collapse in, use the collapse, but it's not uniform. It'll just cut random lines and then reduce the face count. But you can use the unsubdivide and cut more uniformly. It'll just like unsubdivide your model, so yeah. And then the planar will just take away any angle that is 5 degrees, that is under 5 degrees. And then it reduces like that. So for example, you have a lot of like let's say you have bevel. So you beveled this model, so you have like a lot of these bevels, but your like face count is like super high. Let's say you apply the bevel, your face count is super high. What this planar does, it looks at these angles, and then they check if it's like 9 degrees. Since usually these ones are like super, like angles are pretty small because they're like so close together, so it'll just remove angles like that, and then you can just turn up. But yeah, usually people just use collapse because it's just quick and easy. Yeah, and it doesn't have as much deform as this. Like this is, you have to kind of think about it. So yeah. So decimate is just to decrease the amount of face counts. Just use that. But you know, when you're using decimate, you can't really, if you decimate the whole face, you can't really animate the whole face because the topology is not correct. But yeah, you can just decrease the amount of polygons of an object using this. You don't need to know edge split, geometry nodes, mask, you don't need to know. Mirror, you definitely need to know. What mirror does, you use them actually pretty often. Let me just insert another cube. Right, so you have an object, you want to edit mode, you cut 1/2 of it, and then you delete 1/2. Delete faces. And then you add the modifier mirror, it will fill up the other half. So when you're editing your object in the other half, it will do the same thing on the other half. So or what you can do is you have like 2 objects. So you press Ctrl D, you have two objects, and then you want to make let's say you're making a robot. You want to make the arm or like the shoulders of a robot, but you don't want to just like duplicate twice and then duplicate twice. You know, it's not as precise as if you, like, it's not super precise. Like, you could duplicate twice, but the easier way is, you know, you have one of the arms over here, and then you can click this button. So what this does is, since right now it is just mirroring this half, like, you can just do this. So like, it's defining what the middle is, what the middle point is, middle point of the object. For example, this one, it always uses the origin point as the middle point. If you set it as the original object, like just itself, the middle point is this origin, and then it is the exact center of the object. But if you set it as this, the middle point now becomes the center or the origin point of this object. So it will mirror at the according to this center instead of this center, and then it will mirror exactly. You can click this eye, and then you can insert arm, and then you can do the same thing for leg, and then you can create like a robot. It's super useful, because without the mirror, you're going to have to like duplicate this and then rotate it, and then you have to set up. It's a lot of work, so always use mirror. So mirror just mirrors the object. Multi-resolution, it's good for sculpting, but right now we're learning hard surface, so we don't really need to know about this. And it's for a more advanced sculptor as well, since it's pretty handy when you get the hang of sculpting and everything like that, but when you're starting out, it's a bit confusing. You know, there's a lot of stuff, yeah. Remesh, you don't really need to know. Like, it creates some cool effects, but I don't really use it for modeling things. Screw is pretty useful for making screws and pots and plates. I'll show you this, actually. So what you can do with screw is you can, like, for example, I choose this, and then I go to edit mode. Actually, I need to turn off its mirror. Edit mode. A for select all, M for merge. Merge at cursor, so it merges into a single vertex. And then I go to this view, and then so I have like this line thing. Alright, so if I use the screw modifier, oh shoot, it'll rotate the entire object around like 360. So if I move back, grab this, so it will spin around to this center point, to this origin point. Like, you know those clay plates, how they're made? It's similar to that. It's like spinning towards the center, spinning around the center point, like this point. And then you can pick if it's like spinning at the x-axis, spinning at the y-axis of the center point, or spinning at the z-axis, and you can just always just check. So it's like really useful in making plates, since they're like super easy to like manipulate. And actually you can make glass, and then there's like hollow inside. It's this is one of the use for it. This is one use for it. It's just making all kind of pottery. But you can also use it like to make screws. Like, same as this name, screw modifier. So you can turn up the screw for this, and you can make a scrolly shape. If you put it at 0, the whole thing is spinning. It's like spinning at one place, but like you can stretch it by doing this, and then you can switch how much it turns as well, and then what axes. I think you have to actually do it with a plane instead of in a whole cube. Yep. So yeah, you have like a screw. You can make it, you can just tweak it, like, yeah. I don't use it too often, but it is pretty useful. I think you can actually shrink it. You can actually shrink it. I think you can manipulate the bottom part to shrink it. And then depending on the shape, it has like different screws. Like you can make it look like this as well. But yeah, it spins the object, yeah. The next tool I'm going to be sharing or talking about is the skin modifier. The skin modifier, what it does is, I'll just duplicate. Oops. What it does is it merge at center. Now it is, wait, no. Oh yeah, there's like a vertex. So what it does is it gives skin to a line, basically. So you can stretch out. For example, you have like a human. You have a neck, and then you have a head. So what it does is it gives it a skin. Like it has a skin, but the skin is pretty low poly. You can also create an armature with the skin, but usually people use it with the subdivision modifier, which I'll talk about later. This thing is basically just... Oh shoot, I'll put it right after it, so... Oh shoot. Well yeah, the skin modifier just gives your model a skin. I don't know why this arm... Oh yeah, it's because it's positioned weirdly. But yeah, it gives your model a skin. If you want to change the thickness of the skin, you can just press Alt-A. Oh, no, I mean Control-A. Control-A. And then you can change the thickness of the skin at that part. And then after you think it's good, you can just apply this. 1 second. You can create an armature, and then you can apply this. And then you can apply the armature, and you have a functioning character that is rigged, basically. So that's the skin modifier. And then we talk about the solidify modifier, which is used pretty often as well. So what it does, it adds thickness to your model. This thing is not growing. Instead, it's the skin of it's growing thicker. Like I can show you like this. I'll delete a face of this. Look, the skin of it is growing thicker. Like that's its skin. It grows thicker. Or I can show you another example where you only have a plane. Like this. Its thickness is 0. But you can click on the plane and then you add the solidify modifier. And then now it has thickness. And then if you manipulate the plane, it keeps the thickness. Look, it keeps it. Same thing with this cube over here. It keeps the thickness. Let's say you want to make like a house with walls, but you don't want to manually have to make the outer walls. You can just use this solidify to make it thicker. I always think of solidify as making it thicker, so yeah. And then you can control the thickness. And then you don't have to do anything else, basically. I only control the thickness, and the other one you don't really care about. The subdivision surface is also a one that we use like a lot. So if you press subdivision surface, it will subdivide the entire surface. It'll make it like more faces. Like this. If you see a monkey, you click on a subdivision surface, it makes it like, it'll subdivide the entire surface. So have more faces to it. Look, it's like that. Or if you have cube, subdivision surface, subdivide more, it just divides the entire cube. And then you can tweak it, you can manipulate the cube, and then it'll subdivide and things like that. And then you can manipulate it more with the loop cut tool that we have learned last episode. Yeah, also a pretty useful tool. So yeah, subdivision. Surface modifier. And then the last modifier that we are going to be talking about is the wireframe modifier. Which I don't really use it too much, but it's pretty useful if you want to make cages. Look. Yeah, it made that entire cube into just this cage thing. It makes the cage based on the lines, basically, the corners. If you have like a lot of lines like this, using this loop cut tool, go to object mode, and then all of those lines are now like these cages. The only problem with this is that all of these are like triangles. Actually, they're not triangles, they're just like diagonal, they're like a diamond shape. But yeah, this one is pretty useful on making cages. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then that's like all the modifiers that you'll need for making most of the objects. Like that's the modifiers I use the most. If you can understand all of them that I've just shown, you can make pretty decent models. Like really decent models. Like just play around with these. These are like very straightforward. You just click on this and see what they do. Click on this, see what they do. Click on this. And yeah. Just practice and then you'll get good at using all of them. Like make objects just using one single like modifier, and then do it for the next modifier, and then the next modifier, and things like, and so on. And then you'll get the hang of all these modifiers, and then modifiers isn't really that scary to you anymore.